Hello and welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of the New Construction Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Anya Chrysanthon, and I'm very excited to have our guest today. Her name is Rebecca Cafiero, and Rebecca is an ex-salesperson for a builder, and so she had quite an interesting journey, and now she branched out and doing some big things on her own. And so today I wanted to have Rebecca on to talk about some of the things we can do to keep ourselves happy and healthy when we're in a model home, always running around, especially when we get busy over the weekends. Sometimes we don't have anything to grab to eat. And then, of course, heading into the flu season with everyone coming into your model home doing, hi, nice to meet you. And so what can we do to keep ourselves happy? So welcome to the show, Rebecca. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. I love listening to your podcast. And it's fun to be able to come back and revisit this world that used to be, well, my world.
Yeah. So if you don't mind telling us a little bit about, how you got started in new home sales and kind of your journey through that and what do you do now?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I started my career in new home sales in 2003 with Pulte Homes at the time. And 2003, if any of you were in the industry at the time, was a very crazy time to start in new home sales. It was the kind of epicenter of the boom, and I was in Las Vegas, Nevada. Mm-hmm. We had waiting lists and lotteries. And it was nuts. And I was right out of college, so got started young, and it was just an exciting time to be part of the industry. It was moving very, very quickly. And I loved it. I loved the challenge. I loved the financial opportunity. I loved the fact we were constantly opening up large communities. And at that time, because of the pace of how things were happening, there was a lot of opportunities for rank advancing. So I started out in sales in 2003, and by 2006 was a sales manager. So I was selling and then managing a master plan with 4 communities. Wow. And, loved it. My top year, I closed 139 homes personally. And then my team I was managing, we closed an additional 800. And it was just an exciting time.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. It was crazy. I wish we hadn't gone through the downturn after, because it was some really fun money that, of course, we all invested back into real estate. But it taught me a lot. And at that time, I was really out of balance in my life. And, like they say, when it rains, that's the time to make hay, or there's some saying about that. But it was so busy, and there was such an opportunity to create, financial success, that I was 24/7 working. In fact, about a year and a half in, I remember my boss at the time said, "Rebecca, if you don't take a day off, I'm going to fire you." We were allowed to.
That's a nice boss.
It's nice boss, right? We were in a pavilion. So I was one of 10 salespeople. We were allowed to be on the floor taking ups 6 days out of the week. And so the 7th day I would come in and I would just work on appointments. Mm-hmm. And I snuck in on that day that he told me, and at like 5 a.m, intending to be gone by 8, because nobody ever got in there until like 8:30. And he got in early and he caught me, and he didn't fire me. He just said, "You need some talent." And I went, "Yeah, but I came from a background where I grew up very blue collar. My degree was in journalism. I worked at a daily paper for 3 years and had to have a side job or 2 to pay the bills." And I just knew that, like, when I had the opportunity with real estate, I'm like, why will I not just pursue it hard? And that was a great time. And then we fast forward to like 2007, and the market was changing. Mm-hmm. And in 2008, my market, we went from 125 salespeople. We were down to probably about 25 at the time. Wow. I wasn't in danger of losing my job. I was a top producer, but it was a very different time. Mm-hmm. It was not fun anymore. It was a different type of crazy, because we were now working just as much, but producing so much less. Mm-hmm. And I was ready for a change. 5 years in Vegas is a long time. So I had a builder that had been recruiting me for the last year, that was based out of Southern California. And they recruited me for a VP of sales of their sales team for a small regional market. And it sounded really great. And I took it. And unfortunately, just something out there for salespeople. Always make sure you're researching the background and the finances of every company, because 6 months later during the recession, they ended up closing their doors. And that was not a fun time. And then I went from that. I worked for a private equity firm for a year. We bought and flipped foreclosures. Mm-hmm. And then in 2010, after that kind of break out of new home sales, I got back in with another large builder that was a publicly traded builder in Southern California, and kind of director of sales. And then when I left my job, I was a VP of sales and marketing for the Northern California branch of a large builder, and was the broker for the state. And same thing, I came back and income was back and all of that. And I was really enjoying a lot of it. But I was still out of balance. And that's something you're going to hear in the rest of this about, that is so important. During that time in 2009, my boyfriend at the time had gotten diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, and this was, the middle of the downturn. Everyone's struggling, everyone's stressed out. And yes, I was not making the income I had in, 2004, 5, 6, 7, but more importantly, watching someone you love go through something that is so tragic and ultimately losing his life to it. I just became obsessed with health and longevity, mm-hmm. and the idea of vitality. And so not losing weight to be a certain size, but really understanding long-term health and alkalinity of the body, and a lot of things that, I'd maybe been spending money on organic food before, but not really understanding the systematic kind of holistic approach to health. Mm-hmm. And when I got back into building, I started to incorporate more of that. The mental, the emotional, and absolutely the physical balance. And I was able to stay positive and healthy when everyone was getting sick on the holidays at the end of our fourth quarter. But I really realized that I had this passion for health, mm-hmm. And for not just health as far as what you eat and supplements you take, which I do love, but really for healthy living. And mm-hmm. that is also about pursuing your passions, and that's about designing a life you love. And realized that I was at a point in my career that I couldn't have both.
It's amazing that you did realize it and that you took steps to kind of make that change, because I think a lot of us in this role are so driven. It takes kind of a special kind of a person who is excelling in new home sales, right? It's usually a go-getter and kind of has a very similar attitude to you. I want to work. I'm checking my BlackBerry back then, on right. vacation, and answering client calls and this and that. And it really can be a 24/7 type of a job unless you set the boundaries.
Absolutely.
And it can be very hard to set those boundaries, right? Because it's if you're not doing it, you're missing out. And so it's definitely a tricky slope that I think most people have trouble managing that work-life balance.
And that's one of the things that I love, and definitely new home building and being part of that industry. And, I still definitely have my hands in it. I still have many of my closest friends that some of them you've interviewed, that are still very involved and very successful. But, for me, it was also throughout that time of being able to manage, an incredibly demanding career. When I left, Taylor Morrison was the last company I was with. And again, I loved the people I worked with, and I loved a lot of parts of my job. But I had 48 reports and, 40 people in my department that were working with me. And there just wasn't enough time in the day, mm-hmm. To also kind of fit in the other things I wanted. And I said something has to give. And what it really was is I wanted to have kids. And I said, I'm commuting 3 days a week. I'm in front of the windshield 15 to 20 hours a week. And some of these things you don't see when you're on the sales floor, because you mm-hmm. are typically in an office or a model home, and you're always like, where's my manager today? Because they're not responding to my emails for an hour. Well, they might be on the road for the hour, and they're on phone calls instead of on email. But something had to give. And the beautiful side of that is being able to pursue something now that is just a better fit with where I'm at now in my life. I'm so grateful for everything I learned in my decade plus in new home building and new home sales management. But I've been able to go back now and really be able to work closely with many of my former coworkers, some of my former bosses, and my former employees, and give them some very tangible ways to improve their health, their life, their balance, because I totally understand what their daily struggle is.
So what is it that you do now? I guess that's the, I know you're really into health and you do a lot of speaking on this topic, and I know you're passionate about that. So what is it that you do now?
Sure. So there's kind of two prongs to that. When I went into, changing my career for health, I got certified in holistic health and integrative nutrition, and then an advanced certification in gut health. And again, just diving into that obsession. And so for about a year or two after leaving home building, I was really doing a lot of one-on-one kind of coaching and really loved it. But then I realized I love giving people kind of healthy lifestyle hacks. I love training on healthy living. And again, healthy living, not just being what you put in your mouth, but what you put in your mind, what you put into, your environment. But I missed a lot of the kind of the team building and the training that I had been part of my life in new home sales management. And so I created a kind of an additional business, which was, I have an entire team of wellness advocates. So some of them are nutritionists, doulas, yogis, etc., people that are very passionate about health and wellness. And a lot of people that are in health and wellness are so good at what they do, but they're horrible salespeople. Everyone listening to this most likely is a phenomenal salesperson. So I now work within the wellness space on one, I do definitely teach and train on wellness in kind of group seminars, and I do a lot of public speaking at events, but I also work and mentor specifically a team of more or less health coaches to be better salespeople, to be out there more, to increase their network, to learn how to create additional streams of income, and really how to build their brand. That's my main business. And then my second business, which happened as I went from corporate America, VP of sales with a whole team of marketing professionals and PR. And thank you to all of you in the marketing departments out there. Amazing. But I, was so lucky to have this team that I was at, managing a multiple $1 million ad budget every year. And it was fantastic. And when you go from that into being a solopreneur, into your own business, I didn't even hire my first assistant for almost a year and a half. It's very different. And you have to figure out how to do things on the cheap. How do you still get yourself out there? How do you look professional as if you had your graphic design team when you're doing it on your own? And of course, still make sure that you're spending the time doing the income producing activities. And as I learned all of that, and I learned, wow, I can really brand myself as the healthy lifestyle expert. I can train, I can speak, I can utilize these tools and these kind of talents I've cultivated in my past career in my new one. And in doing that myself, I realized I was teaching a lot of the other health and wellness advocates how to brand themselves. So I started Brand Camp, which is it's a brand, really a personal branding business. It's a course, workshops and retreats for female entrepreneurs who are the face of their brand. So you are actually a great example because you are your own brand. Definitely a lot of health coaches, life coaches, but any female entrepreneur that is the one that is the face of their brand. And I'm excited because I know we're going to, at some point in a later date, talk about personal branding for new home sales agents as well.
Yes, that's definitely a great topic. But isn't it funny how coming into this business, you learn so many different tools that now you can be this powerhouse and doing your own thing with all the things that you've learned through home building, the
Absolutely.
sales part of it, right? I mean, you can do anything when you have sales background, right? You can
Anything.
you can sell anything you want. And obviously with marketing and branding. So that's amazing that you're doing all those things.
Well, and so much of it comes from home building, because in home building, if you're sitting in, again, in a model, or you're sitting in a sales pavilion, at the end of the day, you all are selling more or less the same product. You have the same prices. You have the same target consumer groups. You're working with the same resources. What makes someone unique is them. And there's a reason that you have two communities or even two salespeople within the same community where one might outsell the other 5-1. And that comes down to, our personal resources and what we're doing with them. So.
Absolutely. And so to be our best and to bring our best every single day, it's definitely important to feel our best. So besides exercising, which I always say, even if you feel tired, especially when you feel like you're in a sales slump and you're like, I should push that to the side. That's when I say, no, you need to actually get out there and exercise, because that's going to give you the the strength that you need, the energy to get you through and push yourself out of that slump. So besides exercising, what can we do to keep ourselves healthy? I know personally, when you're sitting in that model home, especially come the weekend and the crazy rush comes in and you're like, okay, I have my lunch in the fridge. And then oftentimes you end up walking home with that lunch because, unless you time it perfectly, you can't eat, right?
Absolutely.
So what are some of the, suggestions that you have? I don't know if it's like a meal planning or what can we do to, I know some people pack like tuna pouches. Like I've seen it all. So what are some of the tips that you recommend that we could do to grab something quick that's not going to be, McDonald's?
Absolutely. Well, and what I'd love to do, because, health it really is, it's nutrition and it's absolutely workouts and it's stress management. But for simplicity, I have it down to like, there's 3 keys for optimal health. So I'd love to just go through those and share them.
Yeah.
And then in those give some tips, especially again, because I know what it's like when you've got that Otis Spunkmeyer oven in the office and they smell so darn good. And every day you promise you're not going to eat 4 more of those. And then you do. But the 3 keys, so there's 3 areas that are really required for optimal health. And actually nutrition is 80% of the picture. Exercise is 20, but I tell people you can't out exercise a poor diet. So one is toxicity. And toxicity is a lot of things. It absolutely is sometimes what we're putting into our body. And so there are times that, we don't have time to get that healthy lunch we prepared in the morning or the night before out. And we're throwing in our mouth whatever candy or whatever is at the front desk. And we're putting a lot of toxicity into our body. But it also sometimes can be, it could definitely be food. It can be the air we're breathing. It can be all kinds of outside things. So one thing I recommend is in your sales office, try to ask your managers to get rid of those, like the Glade, the plugins, the fragrance plugins.
Everyone is always doing, right? Because it's like a customer comes in and I remember I used to always have the lavender because that was like the scent. And I always wondered about that. I always thought like, oh, that's probably it's just like a chemical.
It's a chemical. They're highly toxic. Same thing with air fresheners in your car when you drive into work, if just a little healthy tip, if you can, even if you bring in one from home, replace it with an essential oil diffuser, put in some essential oils, because so many people, especially nowadays, have really increased sensitivity to anything that's fragrance based and chemical based. And the last thing you want someone to do is come into your sales office and like be itchy or, feel discomfortable, because they're not going to want to purchase a home. Now, if you have in the models, hopefully you're spending less time in the models than you are in your sales office writing contracts, but that's just one thing. So really managing toxicity, and there's so many different ways to do it, but obviously eating, whole foods, eating organic. I could just give you so many things to do to not to eat or to eat, and we'll go through a few of those, but managing toxicity, because what a lot of people don't realize, and I remember when I worked at Pulte Del Webb, we would call it the Del Webb spread. And it was like you're sitting on your buns all day and you gain 10 pounds over the holidays. And it's like, the buns just kind of spread out. But especially those desk jobs where we're not getting a lot of exercise, when toxicity comes into our body, wherever it's coming from, it literally, like, let's just imagine like a toxin, like a grain of sand. Okay. It comes into our body and it circulates through our bloodstream. And our body wants to keep it away from our organs because we don't want, toxins in our organs. And our liver actually says, I'll take the responsibility. I will produce a fat cell. It's called an obesogen, and it enrobes a toxin. So it's like a grain of sand with a little fat pocket around it. And that toxin, or that fat cell obesogen, is basically a toxin in the middle, and it is inflamed water and toxic fat. And then it sticks to the stomach area. It's called the visceral fat. It's the spare tire area. It's that area that we all, not all, but a lot of people get, even if they're thin. So that area is one responsible for all kinds of heart disease. And, and I've seen so many people in sales that they get used to the kind of the good life, the crazy schedules, and often very young end up having a lot of health issues if you don't manage it. So toxicity is understanding how to manage toxicity. The second is stress management. Now, this is my favorite one to talk about.
I think this is huge, especially in this role. I mean, I think it is one of the more stressful jobs, right? Because you are, it's a roller coaster, right?
What have you done for me lately?
Yeah. What are we going to do with all this money? And then you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to pay my mortgage? Like, it can be so stressful. And if you don't manage it properly, you start to like, once the sales dry up, then suddenly you're like, oh, it's me. I'm a terrible salesperson. And you start to doubt yourself. And then, stress can be terrible.
It is. And sometimes, there's stress from so many different areas. There's emotional stress. We can have stress when we're coming from our homes, our kids in the morning, or our spouses, or whoever we're living with, roommates. You have stress within the office, which by the nature of sales, it is a stressful job. Now, some of us really love that chemical response we get to the high and lows of the sales, but it's still stress in the body, even if you respond to it well. And then of course there's stress from our management, because you might have sold double what your quota was last month. But if you haven't sold this month, they're like, it's Friday.
What are you doing?
What's your projection? And I remember, because I know I would be stressed out from my management asking me, and then I was trying to get it from my sales team, and like, it is stressful. So stress management. So when your stress levels or cortisol levels are high, which can be from many different things, what happens is your cortisol goes up and it suppresses human growth hormone. Human growth hormone is what regulates our metabolism. So this is where even you're like, wait a second, I went to the office in the morning and I had coffee and maybe a banana, and then I didn't eat all day long because it was crazy. And then I ate at night and I'm gaining weight. Like, I'm hardly eating any calories. It's because even if you're calorie deficient, if you're not dealing with stress, your body will just put on weight. So it is not about counting calories, it's about counting nutrition and managing stress.
Interesting.
It is. So a couple of things for stress management. So one is on your drive to work. Yes, you can listen to sales. You can listen to some sales stuff. Absolutely. But let's even go earlier. Let's go to the morning. Most of us in sales don't wake up that early unless you have kids, because you don't have to start that early. 9 or 10 o'clock start time is not like the normal corporate kind of America. But having a morning routine, if you think about it, we have a routine we have for our day when we get to work, right? We start out the day, we probably check our emails, we might have a team meeting. We have a system for success. But if we're not having that in our life and our lifestyle, we're not setting up the foundation of our day for success. So a morning routine. There's a phenomenal book called The Miracle Morning. I would highly suggest.
Yes, love that book.
You love it? I love it. Hal Elrod. And it goes through just a couple of keys. And again, even when I was in sales and I felt like I was pretty into personal development, and I was like going and I watched, was watching TED Talks, I still didn't have a quote routine. But it involves meditation. It involves some affirmations, with looking in the mirror and saying great things to yourself, like, I am going to, sell a house today. Or it could just be, I'm going to deliver a phenomenal value today to the customers that are ready, willing, and able to buy. Well, and ideally everyone, because ideally they'll at some point be ready, willing, and able. Some visualization. How are you walking into that sales office? How are you presenting? What is it going to look like? Really creating that in your mind, create that muscle memory. And let's see, affirmations, visualization, some movement, exercise. Now, don't let, good should not be the enemy of perfect. So if you don't have time to do a 30 or 45-minute workout in the morning, you can do 5 minutes. I mean, my daily, if I can't do anything else, is a 1-minute plank, like 20 sit-ups, some squats. I mean, just get your muscles, stretched and your blood flowing. And then the end is reading and writing. But again, it could be something very simple. So create a morning routine. It is so worth it. Check out that book. It's a great audiobook. And
he actually has one, I don't know if it's on audio or not, but there is a Miracle Morning specifically for salespeople.
I have not listened to that one.
I don't know if it's available on audio, but I know last time I checked it on Amazon, it was definitely available. So maybe you guys can check it out. And, with the exercise, so sometimes if I don't have time to exercise in the morning, which I usually try to get up before my kids, because that's like the only time, so it's like 6 a.m. and I try to do it. But if I don't, sometimes even in the shower, when I'm like, I have a conditioner in my hair, I'll do squats in the shower.
Yes.
I mean,
that's great.
It's something so silly, but it's like even a few squats and you'll notice a difference in a matter of a few days. it's crazy. So little
Well,
things definitely make a
and the
difference.
same thing with affirmations. That, you know, the idea of maybe taking an hour in the morning to do something you're not already doing sounds like craziness to you, but it could be as simple as putting some Post-it notes on your mirror in your bathroom, so you know when you're in there brushing your teeth, or if you're, you know, putting your makeup on, or whatever you're doing, shaving, that you can just be reciting those in the mirror. So it doesn't have to be that you are necessarily taking time away. You could be doing it during the activities that don't require a lot of, you know, mental power. And then on the way to work, I would highly recommend, don't just listen to music. Listen to a podcast. Listen to, you know, again, a TED Talk, something that is going to create thought in your brain, something that's going to make you feel positive. Turn off the news. I mean, my goodness, the news is not going to put you in a place where you are going to be in your optimal mental state to give the best presentation, to sell a house. You know, it is all about like what you focus on, you find; what you focus on expands; what you focus on, you attract. And so if you're focusing on positivity, it's going to come back to you. You turn on the news, you're going to focus on negativity. And I mean, I even love NPR, but it's still, you know, and it's definitely better than a lot out there, but
Yeah,
focus.
I don't watch, like, I barely watch any TV, and I definitely don't watch news. And so a lot of times my husband will come home and he'll like, did you hear? And I'll be like, no, I have no idea what's going on. So he'll clue me in to what's happening. So, and obviously with the fires recently, I've been kind of following that a
Oh
little
my
bit.
gosh, it's,
And I know my parents are in Southern California or Northern California, and I know you're from that area. So how, like, is your home safe? Are you guys affected at all?
yeah, thank you for asking. So our home, I mean, fortunately, we're definitely out of like any risk of our home burning down. We're several hours from the campfire from Chico, but the air quality has been so poor. And again, here's toxicity for you right here is, even if you're eating the most perfect diet, you've got, you know, Gwyneth Paltrow's personal chef, you're breathing in air. And you can all just like get on your iPhone. You can say, Siri, what's the air quality in whatever city? Or on your weather app, it shows at the bottom. So our air quality has been so unhealthy, literally saying very unhealthy, like do not go outside, and I'm pregnant. So there's all kinds of negative side effects for breathing in toxic air. And it's not just smog. This is particles of things that should never have been burnt. This is plastics and insulation and all. I mean, it's homes, guys. Like think about all the things that are in homes, plus everyone's belongings. But yeah, we had to leave the area because it was so bad that we were like bloody noses, and it was horrible. So managing that, but you know, you made a great point about, I was definitely overwhelmed last week. In fact, I was moving a lot of my appointments, because it was just, I have several friends that they lost everything. I know people in the area, and also in Malibu, I have 3 friends that evacuated down there. It was very overwhelming. And I would encourage you, especially because when you're in sales, your mental state is everything. And things are going to happen in your personal life and in your professional life that you are not able to necessarily control. And if you focus on them, they're absolutely going to be a downward spiral. So what always is a recipe for disaster is when we take whatever the event is that we can't control, and we lament it, and we want it to change, and we complain about it, but we are not in action towards it. So whether this is elections or it is, you know, natural disasters. So for me, I decided my action last week when I was in this mode of like stress was, yes, absolutely meditate and adaptogens, which I'll talk about adaptogens in a minute because they're like the best thing ever with very minimal effort. But was going to action. And I did a Facebook Live and an Instagram and just said, hey, listen, I know there's a lot of people out there that are really thinking about what's going on. You're reading about it. You're stressed out about it, but you don't know what to do. And I have a friend up there. They gave me a whole list of what people needed for donations. I had over 45 people reach out to me and Amazon me. I just gave them my address, private message. But they Amazoned, and knowing that I was going to be able to contribute and, you know, support some of these survivors, that was enough to move me out of that stressful situation. So whatever it is, there's always something that we personally can do to move us out of stress. So don't focus on the stress, focus on what can you do. It's kind of like when your manager says, don't come to me with a complaint, come to me with a solution.
Yes. And you know what? I love that about you. I definitely checked out your Facebook, and same goes for your TED Talk. I think that, you know, you're not one of those people that, like you said in your TED Talk, like in the past, I would have just maybe like made a small contribution. Like you were talking about that single mother, like you went and you got the people together, the funds, and like you got the car. like you're like a mover and a shaker. And I think that just goes to show, like, from your personal life success to your professional success to the kind of person you are, that you just take action, and you're not, you're not letting anything stand in your way. You're just like, you know what, this needs to be done. Here's what I'm doing. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. And listen, I go through my moments. It's just, the question is everyone's going to experience it. It's how long do you let it affect you? Don't let things give you a bad month or a bad week or even a bad day. You could have bad moments. That's okay. But we choose how long we stay in that state. Back to stress management, but just a couple of quick tools to give everyone. So meditation is phenomenal. And again, I didn't learn this when I was in sales. I mean, I think part of the kind of holistic health culture is you learn all of these things that sound super woo-woo. You're like, wow, these really work. I mean, they do. My husband, I told him for years to meditate, and he's master's from Stanford, Wharton MBA, like is a founder at his own company that is a startup. And he, about a year ago, started meditating. And now if I'm tense, he's like, have you meditated today? Your energy is like up. I'm like, who are you? But it really helps. And what I would recommend is there's a great app, Headspace. It's a phenomenal app. You can do like SOS 3-minute meditations, but it's just, the same reason that in sales, when what you practice, you're going to improve at. Meditation is not necessarily something that's easy, but it absolutely is a great way to quiet the mind and to improve the mental muscle. And everyone can benefit from it. Another really good thing is just, you can do it all right now. If you're watching this or if you're listening, is you sit down and you uncross your legs and you find your heartbeat. So, yeah, exactly wherever it is. And you're, and I like to do my neck because I can feel it better there. You put your fingers here. And for about a minute, you can close your eyes and you just breathe and you just focus on your heartbeat. Because when things feel so out of control, to know that we can ground ourselves into the physicality of our body is very solidifying. And just taking that time so that we can be proactive and not reactionary. So those are just some things. Also, avoid over caffeinating. I know it's really easy, but that is not good for our stress levels. We'll talk about sugar in a moment when we get into nutrition. Adaptogenic herbs. So that is an area, and these are not like, I know it sounds like the thing in California and some states that are legal. This is not, marijuana or any other type of drug. Adaptogenic herbs are herbs that in their natural environment went through hardship and they were able to survive and thrive. And so adaptogens were discovered actually by Russians in the 50s. It's been used by a lot of different cultures that are some of the cultures that have had the longest lifespans and the most health. But in the 50s, the Russians discovered basically how to utilize them. And they used them on the first astronauts in space, which there's nothing more stressful than going through the atmosphere for the first time and wondering if you're coming back. And then they used them on the Olympians who, when they were winning all the medals, like this is more in the 50s, 60s, not later when there was some mismanagement of performance enhancing things. But adaptogens, so things like ashwagandha, rhodiola, wolfberry, milk thistle, and you'll have to let me know the best way, because I can make a resource list of what I'm talking about with some links. Maybe you can upload
if you have something handy, that would be great, because I think
totally
it's and I'm totally like, I believe in your body's way of naturally healing itself. So if you can give it something, like I remember I was at a conference and I felt like I was coming down with something, and the lady was sitting next to me and she was into like the oils and everything. And so I was like, do you have anything to give me a little boost? And literally, I don't know what the heck she gave me. Next morning, I woke up feeling like $1 million.
Absolutely. So essential oils are also wonderful. I mean, having an essential oil to smell, there's different oils, and I'm not an oil expert, but I absolutely use them in my daily life. Different oils that can relieve stress. But yeah, adaptogens, and they're just incredible because they help the body adapt to stress naturally. So I like to say, you can't necessarily change the stress that is coming into your life, especially in a new home sales environment, but when you've got those buyers that are just difficult no matter what. But if you can consume something that is going to help you focus more, help you stay relaxed, help keep your cortisol low. So I personally, there's a drink that I drink that got 7 different adaptogenic herbs. It can drink cold or warm. I even give it to my 2-year-old. Well, he's almost 3 when he's a little out of control. My husband gets home from work and he's like chugging it from the bottle. It can be drank.
Is it like some?
So it's a blend. It's called Ionics. And it literally is like, it is basically a drink or a tea. It can be taken as a powder in water or liquid. But it's the best one I found. And again, I'll send you the link to it because it is like liquid gold. And I remember that last year at Taylor Morrison, I got introduced to it. And it was right when I was getting announced, I was getting promoted from director of sales to VP of sales. It was a very stressful time. And we were going through a lot of changes organizationally and bonus structures and everything. And there were times that I was taking it 4 times a day. It was like either this or I'm going to have a meltdown and I'm going to be crying in my office.
Yes.
There were days I still cried in my office, but you know, it definitely helped. And I highly recommend that. It's probably one of the most effective things. In fact, if I had to rank like the amount of benefit you get versus the work you put in, I would say ionics or adaptogens and then meditation, probably second. You put them together and you are going to feel like a new person in 5 minutes. So,
you know what, speaking of the drinks, and of course I'm like zonking out on the name of it. Like it's all the rage right now that everyone's drinking. It's like, it's some kind of a fermented drink.
Oh, kombucha.
Kombucha, yes.
Oh my gosh, I've got like a gallon of it in my fridge. Yes. Yeah? So we will definitely get it. So it doesn't necessarily manage stress, but it absolutely for nutrition is phenomenal. And it's a great little boost of energy.
Okay. Okay. So you like kombucha? Because I've never had it. I've never tried it.
Oh God. So good. It's so good.
All
so
right.
The other thing for stress management is definitely like get into a late night yoga class. You know, I had a reward for myself like the entire time I was in home building. I had a membership. I still have a membership at Massage Envy. And my rule was if I was at work past 8 o'clock, now this is when I didn't have a child, that I would call, and if they had a 9 o'clock available, I'd be like, I'm going to work till 8:30. I'm going to go and get a 9 o'clock massage. I'm just going to come home and collapse in bed. You know, make sure you're rewarding yourself with self-care. That is key. And that can be a massage or reflexology or a yoga class. It can also be something as simple as
getting your nails done. My goodness.
Oh my gosh, getting your nails done.
You need to like sit down and relax and let somebody else handle it.
And put the phone away. I know it's hard. I know it's hard because, you know, but like put the phone away and listen to some music or something and just relax. I fall asleep now at the nail salon. And I used to bring my laptop in and be like trying to respond to offers. Okay. So we've talked about toxicity. We've talked about stress management as being 2 keys. Now, third is the one that I want to give you the most value is nutrition. Nutrition is key. And so just a few things, especially because we're going into the holidays. I actually have a Healthy for the Holidays group, accountability group. But nutrition is absolutely key. And there's some really simple ways to make sure that you are getting it in the sales office. And again, I know the struggle, but the first thing is so many people over sugar, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to eat. I'm just going to grab something quick. It's going to give me a little energy burst.
Oh, you know, that candy jar.
Yes. And if you're at the corporate office, it's like all the vendors like are sending in peanut brittle and the popcorn things. It is not worth it. And I'm not talking about for your waistline, though, of course, it's not there either. But most people don't know that I believe it's more than 8 teaspoons of sugar a day. So depending on how much sugar you're consuming, and that's not a lot. That's like a Coke, right? If you're drinking soda, that's a Coke.
Yeah, hopefully you guys don't drink soda, right? That's like one thing.
Or Red Bull. And I'm talking artificial or real stuff. It doesn't really matter. But when you get over, I believe it's 8 teaspoons of sugar a day, what happens is for every amount of sugar, like every 2 teaspoons, it weakens the immune system by about 25%. So I think at the time you're at 12 teaspoons a day, you have literally obliterated your immune system.
Really?
Yes.
I think most people have no idea about that. Most people think it's just going to make you fat or, you know.
It's going to make you fat and it's going to put you at risk for type 2 diabetes, but it's going to also wreck your immune system. And we all know, like, everyone's like, oh, I always get sick every year during the holidays. Well, there's a couple reasons. One, we're really not taking care of ourselves. We're probably not sleeping enough, or yes, it's year end, but we're also not nourishing our bodies with food that is going to help us feel better, you know? And I'm not saying you all have to go on like Whole30 at all. Like there are lots of ways to do it in a way that doesn't compromise convenience. But really avoid the sugar. Now, a little bit of fruit here and there, totally fine, but avoid all the candies. You know, I actually have a great recipe for, it's like healthy protein balls. It's like yummy and delicious, but also nutritious, which is important.
All right. What's your take on like, so say if we drink coffee in the morning, what's your take on like those pink packets, yellow packets, whatever they are, the sugar substitute? Right? It's worse than
the sugar. No, I mean, and if you look at it, the aspartame, the sucralose, some of the artificial ingredients have not only been linked to Alzheimer's, to brain cancer, to degenerative diseases, to ALS. I mean, just everything out there. It's absolutely not worth it. And ultimately, if you're craving sugar, and this is actually, I was going to say, kombucha is phenomenal. It's typically low sugar. I don't drink more than one a day, but a lot of times people drink it and they're like, oh, it's really bitter. That is actually a sign of alkalinity. If it's bitter to you, your alkalinity is really off. And if you are craving sugar, I used to just think it was genetic. I was like, it's just my mom's side. They crave sugar. It's always going to be a part of my life. But it really was, my alkalinity was not balanced. And when that happens, when you're eating the sugar, or you're, over caffeinating, or you're using the artificial things, it wreaks havoc on the immune system. And ultimately, disease cannot live in an alkaline state. So if your body is really unalkaline or acidic because you're craving sugar, you're craving salts, you're looking at long-term at really inviting in chronic disease, chronic illness. So it's just not worth it. So if you are, oh my gosh, like reach out, and I don't know if you'll post my social media links, reach out, because I actually have a little free program that is kind of how to detox your body from sugar without feeling absolutely miserable.
Yeah. Normally I'd say I'm pretty good with sugar. The only thing is, in the mornings when I do drink my coffee, I do put in nice, healthy spoonful of sugar, and it's all organic, whatever cane sugar that I make my husband buy for me. So I feel like, and every time I go out with my friends, and they reach out for that like pink packet. I'm like, no, don't do it. It's so much worse for you, right? Or diet drink, same thing. Like that's stuff is
so
right?
One, you and I can talk offhand about doing a cleanser, a detox, which totally, you guys, I did my first, like, I've done a few different detoxes. I mean, I've done a lot now, but before, when I was in home sales, I had done a few different ones. And I did the last one, which is the only type I now do. I did it in the month of December, the year that I was getting promoted, because my wedding was 3 months away. And I went, I'm going to feel miserably at this, but I just need to do it anyway. I could not believe it. Like, it totally realkalined my body. And I was walking past in the corporate office all of those dessert trays. Not only was I not eating them, because I didn't have, it wasn't a willpower thing, it was a desire thing. I was like, I don't want it. Like, it's gross. I was feeling amazing. I didn't get sick, but I also lost 8 pounds in the month of December. Yes. And it was a lot of inflammation. It wasn't because I was actually upping my calories, but I was making different choices. So let's talk about snacks, because that's, I think, something that everyone can walk away from this call with is, yes, you made the healthy lunch. And it is hard, though, when you just don't have control of your schedule. So snacks and hydration. One is, often we're hungry because we're not drinking. You see, I've drank this whole thing of water. I'm like, oh, I'm already thirsty.
It's hard, right? Because you're running around, and it's like, it's hard to just have, and I mean, we need to drink a lot of water, right?
We need to drink a lot of water. So the whole 8 glasses a day, that is not correct. You really want to aim for minimum of 75% of your body weight in ounces. So let's say you're 150 pounds, you want to be hitting about 120 ounces, about a gallon a day. Now, that is true water. That is not soda or coffee. In fact, and not saying coffee is evil. You guys will boo me off the podcast. There are better types of coffee, and I can give you a resource. There's 2 different coffees I recommend to clients because they're non-toxic, low acidity, alkaline, infused with coconut oil, which affects the way it hits the bloodstream. But if you're stopping it,
is that like that bullet, whatever coffee?
Bulletproof is one. Isogenics coffee is another. They're the cleanest I've found. And I mean, if I don't have one of those 2 options, I will go and I'll buy something that's organic and like local at the very least. But coffee is one of the most toxic things that we drink, and most people are over drinking it, and then they're adding in a bunch of sugar.
It's crazy because, it's like you read all this thing. It was like, coffee is the worst thing for you. Then it's like, no, coffee is the best thing for you. If you drink X amount, it's like fights cancer. Like there's so much conflicting information, I feel like, right? That's the problem.
There's so much. And believe me, I have researched it. My poor husband, like for years, I was like, you can't drink coffee. And of course he did it anyway. But then he got really happy when I was like, okay, I have done all this research, and it came down to, here is the best ways to drink coffee, and here's the best coffee to drink.
So you don't drink coffee?
I actually have never been a coffee drinker. I am pretty naturally energized. I used to crash. I will occasionally have about a quarter or a half of a cup and I'll do in fact, hold on. It's right here at the fridge. I will show you the alternative.
Okay. Because I don't drink coffee during the day. I'll just creamer, almond milk.
I am not paid to endorse them. I wish I were. I am plant-based. I don't do any dairy, and that's a whole nother topic, but this is Calafia Farms. So this is just super clean. It's almond milk. There is a little bit of sugar. It's about 2 grams per serving. So I would highly recommend this. The other thing is if you're not ready to cleanse and alkaline your body and just feel amazing and get rid of inflammation and toxicity, go with honey, like high grade raw honey or Manuka honey, because the honey has some really good antibacterial qualities that sugar just does not have. So
yeah, we eat a lot of honey in my household.
Perfect. But some snacks. So snacks, I prefer if people do whole foods. And what I mean by whole foods is, yes, there are a couple of clean protein bars out there, and in a pinch, those are an okay option. But the snacks that you can keep in your office that are super easy is I take sprouted seeds. And I know this makes me sound like such a hippie, but I love this brand, Go Raw, and I will buy 3 bags, different seeds, pumpkin seeds, sprouted, and sprouted just means they're more bioavailable, meaning your body will absorb more of it. So you'll get fuller on less. And that's what we want, because Americans are overfed, undernourished. You want to up your nutrition, but not necessarily up your calories. So pumpkin seeds, watermelon seeds, actually.
And which seeds? You said pumpkin and what else? Sorry, Rebecca, come on, just come. My dogs came in here and a baby. Hang on.
He's like, hey, I want attention. So watermelon seeds, pumpkin seeds, and what is the other one? Watermelon seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds.
And do they have them at Whole Foods?
Whole Foods, typically. My area, they're from San Jose, so the brand Go Raw is GORAW. It's all raw sprouted seeds. So they're really good tasting. They have no ingredients except whatever it is. So they're not processed, and they're really high in protein and healthy fats. For the snack, so I love, what I'll do is I'll just take the seeds and I'll put them in a mason jar or something, or you can put them in individual baggies and it's basically making your own little 100-calorie snack packs. Seeds, because they have healthy fat and protein, people go for sugar, but what your body's needing is fat and protein. Fat is not a bad thing if it's not fat you're cutting off of a steak,
I haven't done that. I'll try that, because I like seeds normally, even if you
right. Nuts are also okay. You can grab the little Justin. I actually don't love Justin's. There's a couple other organic brands like almond butter. Ideally almond. Don't go for peanuts. Peanuts is really high in inflammation. Almond butter. Those little packs. Again, look for protein and fat. And one thing also, if you love avocado, take an avocado to work, cut it in half, and you can literally just spoon out half of an avocado.
Yes.
These are all some whole food examples. Hard-boiled egg. It's from a nutrition standpoint, it's better to do a lightly scrambled or poached egg because it's more bioavailable. But again, in the sales office, that hard-boiled egg with a tiny bit of sea salt, Pink's Himalayan sea salt, is going to be so much better for you than the Otis Spunkmeyer cookie or the popcorn or the candy or whatever are those other things. And ideally, just don't keep them in the office.
I'm surprised you said that it's 80% food and 20% exercise.
That's absolutely correct. In fact, I was going to say, do you mind if I share my screen just for a moment?
No, go ahead.
So I want to show, so when this was the December I was talking about, I did not work out at all because I actually had an ankle injury and it was fourth quarter. So I am in a sports bra here. So I just want to say that. But this is 60 days, released 18 pounds and 34 inches off my body.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's a really big difference.
It's a huge difference. I went down 2 dress sizes and 3 jean sizes in 60 days with that exercise. That was all based upon cleansing the body, which is getting rid of inflammation and toxicity. And when I say cleansing, I don't mean a poopy cleanse, by the way. That's not something we can deal with in a sales office. Running to the bathroom every 10 seconds. But yeah, absolutely. You cannot out-exercise a poor diet. And it really is more about the food. And if you guys are like, oh my gosh, I'm craving all the bad stuff, I can never do this. Listen, I promise you feed your body for a few weeks, especially if you have a professional, a nutritionist that works with you, you will feel so good and you won't crave the bad stuff. Okay. And then hydration. Often when we are hungry, I actually say, if you have a headache, if you think you're hungry, if you whatever, that you're gonna go for the Red Bull or the candy, it's usually lack of hydration. It is okay if you need to use the restroom a lot at work. That is okay. If you're in the middle of the contract, I would rather you say, hey, give me 1 minute, can I get you a water? I mean, make a reason. May I get you something? And then run to the restroom. It's all right. Just make sure you're hydrating. It is really important. Keep a swell bottle or a hydro flask, or don't refill water bottles. It's super toxic. The plastic breaks down when you refill them.
Wait, so you're saying like
the plastic, like if you get the crystal geyser that they usually have.
No, I try not to, again, because I always think like, and sometimes my husband will buy, like we drink a lot of like mineral water. So, and then my husband sometimes will buy them in plastic, and I'm like, no, especially if it came from Italy, like it was on the cargo ship for God knows how long.
Heat cycled.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go to the store and half the time the water bottles are warped, you're like, okay, this has been heat cycled. So you want to avoid that.
What's your take on the mineral water?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, the more just regular water we do, I have, I've had alkaline water filters. I've had all these different things. I have what's called a Berkey. It's Berkey. They range from like $200 to $300. They go right next to your sink. You literally just like fill it with your nozzle, and it goes through this incredible charcoal filtration system that can basically make like puddle water taste good. Not that I have ever tried that, but the reason I did that is we were buying a lot of bottled water, and the cost of most systems is like $1,500. And right now we're building a house, so we're renting something a lot of you probably have dealt with. And, to be able to take something with us and have it be such high quality, and it looks nice, it's stainless steel. So occasionally I do sparkling water. I actually have a soda stream. So I just turn the own water that I have filtered, that I know where it's came from, into sparkling water. And I'll add in at home lemon or lime, or like a drop of essential oil. So, you can play around with that.
Speeds up your metabolism, right? The lemon and lime.
Absolutely. Lemon or lime, or you can do apple cider vinegar, just a little bit. Drink it with a straw though, because it's really hard on the enamel. Some other, hydration. For people that are used to drinking soda, there's a great electrolyte replacement. Don't drink Gatorade or the emergencies or all of that stuff. There's a lot of garbage out there. I drink one called Hydrate, and it is a little bit of sugar, but it is electrolytes and B complex. So it's phenomenal for natural energy without caffeine. And again, I'll give you a list of all this.
Yeah, I definitely want to list, because I feel like we could talk on and on and on about this.
Absolutely.
What's your take on coconut water?
Again, it's okay here and there. It's a lot of sugar. So most people don't know that the World Health Organization recommends that you have 25 grams or less of sugar a day. And as we discussed earlier, anything over that, you're totally depleting your immune system. So, which you don't want to do, because you're going to get sick. You're going to feel garbage. You're going to miss work. Most coconut water has between 18 and 25 grams in it.
Wow,
so,
really?
Yeah, it's really, again, it's better than drinking a Mountain Dew, but it still is sugar. And so yes, while natural sugar is much better, it's still sugar. So for me, for example, I do twice a day, I do like a vegan smoothie. And the funny part is that, yes, I put some extra stuff in, like almond butter, but I get a mix and it's just super high quality. It's better than the green smoothies I used to make myself. And it's low in sugar. It's about 6 grams. So I usually do 2 a day. I do one as my early morning breakfast, and I do a late morning breakfast or a snack. And I do one in the afternoon, like probably when I get off this call, I'll make a second one, because that stops the munching before dinner, because my body's getting satiated with dense nutrition. But that's 12 grams. And then I'll have like a pomegranate. Or one of my favorite tips is, I know you guys get home from work and you want to unwind. You've had this day that's stressful. Well, one, meditate, take some adaptogens. But often it's like turn on the TV and then we're in munch mode. And we're going for chocolate. We're going for ice cream. We're going for the high fat or high sugar, not the good fat, right?
Yes.
Grapes. Grab some grapes. I love red grapes, but if you're a green grape person, put them in the freezer.
Oh yeah, that's delicious.
It's so good. And then like just grab a bunch off. So there's like 10. And wash them, and then they're like kind of icy on the outside, and they're super crunchy, so it satisfies that like crunch effect.
Yeah.
And eat those, and I'll do one of those with one piece of dark chocolate. And I have a really good antioxidant rich dark chocolate. And I promise you, this stuff doesn't require, like, I go to a bakery. If I go to a bakery, I have no desire anymore to eat every single thing like I used to a few years ago. So,
so once your body kind of clean of it, you're like, okay, this is my base and I'm comfortable with that base.
Yes. And I traveled this last June, July. I mean, this is one of the reasons I wanted to become an entrepreneur, but and actually the great thing about sales is typically if you're hitting your numbers, you could take a lot of vacation time. Most managers will give you, time off if you're hitting numbers and you're managing your backlog. But I took 6 weeks where I took my mom and my son and my niece to Europe. And even though I ate probably cleaner than most people, we were in France for 4.5 weeks.
Oh my gosh, yes. Cheese, wine, and baked goods.
I only did cheese for 2 days because I can't do dairy in it. I tried to convince myself I could, and it convinced me that I still couldn't. But I mean, lots of wine, and we were, have drinks for lunch, having drinks for dinner. Not crazy on the sugar, but just a lot. I mean, wine is sugar, so if you're drinking a glass of wine, it might be might be doing a protein smoothie, and you might be doing your grapes and then a glass of wine, and that might be your sugar for the day. But I came back and I went, whoa, like I definitely have eaten a lot more sugar, and I was inflamed, and I did a cleanse and the cravings went away, which is what I like.
Well, let me ask you this, because I know we can keep on and on and on and on. I feel like we could be here on for 3 hours. So what's your favorite brand of kombucha? I'm going to try that.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I love Health Aid. It's HealthAde.
Okay.
And if you go to Whole Foods, sometimes you can get the individuals, which are like $3.50 to $4. They're pretty spendy. There's 2 servings in them now, so you only need to drink half. And for flavors, I really love their, it's their apple. I literally have a huge one in my fridge. I'm like, what is the flavor? Hold on.
Okay. And so you're saying just drink one of those. Holy smokes. Well, okay.
Not one of these. This is a large one.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is the Pink Lady Apple. It's a bubbly probiotic tea. This is delicious.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna go to the store tomorrow and get some. So
I love that. Pomegranate's really good. The second brand, if you can't find Health Aid, I like is GT. It's GT. It's Synergy is the line, and it's their lower sugar. So they usually only have like 4 to 5 grams of sugar per serving. Again, there's usually 2 servings in the bottle. And they have a really nice one called Gingerberry, which I love. But yeah, kombucha is phenomenal. And the nice thing about it is it's got just a tiny bit of caffeine, and it definitely gives you that pep.
Oh, I didn't know that caffeine. Maybe there you go. There's my replacement therapy.
Exactly. It's very little because it's a fermented tea. It's very little. It's like nothing compared to coffee. The question is the only thing to understand about kombucha, if you're buying the Synergy brand of GTs, there's no alcohol, but it is fermented. So there can technically be like 0.5% of alcohol.
Bonus.
I mean, listen, especially right now being pregnant, I'm like, I can't drink, but I'm gonna have my kombucha.
Yeah.
So if you are in a sales office, just make sure, like, depending, especially on the area, and like, you want to get one that does not have any fermentation or as low fermentation. But yeah, at home, it's got this like nice effervescent buzz without, the next awesome. Morning hangover.
Definitely trying it tomorrow. So, Rebecca, thank you so much. You've given us such great information. So you guys, I think sounds like biggest takeaways we can do is have a morning routine, right? Maybe it's one thing, like if you're meditating, positive affirmation, and there's a lot of, I have a CD that I listen to, or not CD, but it's in a digital form, but it's kind of like the positive affirmations, and it takes you through, it says you repeat, and it's really puts you in that great state of mind. And then of course, find some time to exercise. And again, it can be something low impact like yoga or even doing something in the shower, but it sounds like food is the key. And so maybe just take a day and really kind of try to figure out some of those snacks that you can bring to work with you. Again, something like an avocado is an easy, quick snack that, most of us don't even think about that. So
nut seeds. And if on my website, I've got a couple of blog articles. One is creating a morning routine. I also have
your website. So how do we connect with you?
Sure. Website's probably the best way, or on social media, www.Rebecca, Rebecca, Cafiero, C as in Charles, A, F as in Frank, IERO.com. And there's a couple of different blog articles, but several of the things we talked about. I talked one about raising your energy naturally. Mm-hmm. So I actually have a link in there, I think, to the Ionics. I talked also about choosing your coffee that's non-toxic. I've got links to the coffee. I have creating your morning routine. I've got some on time blocking, which is a great, especially if you're going into your office an hour before prospects come in. What can you do in that hour to really free up, not only to free up, mental space, but also to get a lot done, to be very productive, not to be busy. So a lot of time management and health tips. And you can sign up. I have an ebook that's for free, but you can also sign up to receive updates, or there's a contact form if you want to reach out. I have videos I've done that I'm happy to share with anyone on how to nutritionally rebalance the body and how to detox from sugar, all of these things we've talked about today. I've done.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I'll make sure to link all that information on the website so you guys can check out more of all the awesome stuff that Rebecca is doing. And then Rebecca, one last question for you. So I'd love to always get recommendations on books that people are reading. Maybe it's your favorite book that you read that you're like, oh my God, this is the book I go back to over and over. Or maybe it's the book you recently read that kind of made an impact on you. Give it to me.
Okay. So, I already said Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning.
Yes.
I love the book, The Go-Giver.
The Go-Giver. Yes.
Go-Giver.
Okay.
It's so good. And, I think that when anytime in my life that everything is really flowing, it definitely in sales, it is because I have been unconsciously doing the different principles of the Go-Giver. It's a super short read. It's just a very easy read. So I highly recommend reading that. The other one that I love is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And that one is about going from your zone of excellence to your zone of genius. And sometimes we get really stuck in our zone of excellence because it's what we know. Now, the only thing I want to say is if there's sales managers out there, you're not going to want to recommend that book because you might have salespeople that their zone of genius, their zone of excellence may be sales and their zone of genius might be something else. But, it's really about pursuing that which you are so passionate about that success is meant to follow. And that is definitely what I think I've done is I've gone from my zone of excellence to my zone of genius. And it means that you're living a really passionate life, but you can also find ways to do that within what you're currently doing.
Yes. And I think you can see it in you, Rebecca, how passionate you are with what you're doing now. And it comes through your being so positive, and you're always so quick to help others. And I just admire that about you. So thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate your time. And I cannot wait to have you on next time. We'll definitely talk about personal branding.
Perfect. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye.